Cape Town man who used to plow and see. He loved his mule and the mule loved him. When the day got long, as it does about now, I'd hear him singing to his muley cow, singing, "Come on, my sweet old girl." I bet the whole damn world that we're gonna make it, yeah, to the end of the road. Singing hard times ain't gonna rule my mind. Hard times ain't gonna rule my mind. Bessie, hard times ain't gonna rule my mind no more. 'Cause it's a mean old world, heavy and mean. That big machine is just picking up steam, and we're suffering on tears like we're suffering on wine. But we'll all get to heaven in our own sweet time.
Hear now these words by Reverend Gretchen Haley. There is too much beauty in this world to give up on it. Yet, and it is always too soon to surrender to cynicism. So bring your doubt, your skepticism, your downright confusion, even your bitterness. But in the midst of all of these, in the center, wrap your tender fingers around that still bright thread of hope. Feel in your heart that still steady hunger for something more. We come to this hour to celebrate, to praise, to give thanks, to refuse to give up, to steady ourselves as keepers of hope, brave builders of this still possible world. Come, let us worship together. In the spirit of celebration and praise and thanks, I now invite Jody Hammer, Alex Hurdle, and Willow Hammer Hurdle to light our chalice today.
Across the Distance by Laura Thompson.
Across the distance, the light from within me shines, sending love to all. Across the distance, your light is fuel that warms me and helps to keep my own light burning. Together, we keep the flame of community burning bright.
Greetings, friends, and good to be with you. Whenever I gather with a group of singers in person or otherwise, I always take an extended, maybe even exhaustive amount of time stretching, breathing, and warming up our bodies. It's amazing how much we hold in our bodies, exacerbated by long days hunched over a computer, teeth chattering in the cold, and carrying small humans from point A to point B. But today, in this moment, right now, you are here and you are held. I invite you to settle in, let your body soften, let your gaze brighten, and maybe even join in singing our opening chant, Loosen, Loosen. The words will scroll on your screen.
Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't need to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't need to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Holy breath and holy name. Will you ease this pain? Holy breath and holy name. Will you ease this pain? Holy Mary and Holy Mary,
Good morning. Happy Lunar New Year and welcome to the Year of the Tiger. My name is Carrie Reichs and I'm your worship associate today. And you may notice that I'm looking a little bit fancy, but I figured that just because we are virtual again does not mean that I can't dress for church. After all, we are well into the middle of a 6-month-long 200th birthday party for All Souls. So welcome to All Souls Church, where our name says it all. For 2 centuries, our congregation has sought to live up to the vision inherent in our name, All Souls. Our mission is to build what Dr. King called the beloved community, a vision of human community where the divisions that separate us in our daily lives come tumbling down, and we recognize that all people are welcome at the table of God's love and human fellowship. As Unitarian Universalists, we are diverse in many ways, but united in our inherent belief in the worth and dignity of every human, and in the obligation to express our faith through acts of justice and compassion. We invite you to join us as we seek to create a justice-seeking, spirit-growing community that is true to the dream of all souls. If you'd like to follow along the order of service today, you'll be able to find a link in the chat. And here we go. We find ourselves virtual again in the pernicious grip of this peculiar and persistent pandemic. 2022 is like that boyfriend I'm about to take back for the 3rd time because he swears he's changed. Plans upended, pursuits curtailed, pivoting back to vigilance level death contamination 5. It's exhausting. And yet, we've also gotten better at the silver linings, the silver everything. Priorities are clearer, pants back to optional. I might be wearing jammy bottoms, and pesky borders eradicated. All Souls has proven to be so much more than a building. It's a global community without walls, points of light around the world united into the flaming chalice, and present. Week after week, on screen, possibly in person, but perpetually, persistently, passionately present. I'd like to extend a special welcome this morning to those of you who are new to All Souls, those joining or rejoining from afar, and to the members of the Paintbrush UU from Adelphi, Maryland, who are visiting us today. We're glad you're here. Please send a direct message to our membership coordinator, Gary Penn, in the chat if you would like to be included in our mailing list. Now, if we were together in our uplifting sanctuary, I would invite you to turn to someone near you in the pew for a handshake or a hug. Instead, I invite you to behold. Rather than absorbing the light streaming through our sanctuary windows, bask in the light emanating from the faces of your All Souls friends around the world. You maybe didn't shower today or this week, or in your pajamas or only top half ready, but I encourage you to set your screen to the right angle, turn on your video, and scroll through the fun in gallery view. And although you'll remain on mute, please exchange smiles and waves and chats as you draw strength and joy from the exquisite gallery of this congregation. And again, welcome to All Souls Church.
Good morning. Hello, I'm Ebony C. Peace, your A. Powell Davies intern. My internship ends June 30th, and I'm looking forward to the next few months with you. My pronouns are she, her, and I am so happy to be with you today. I'm especially delighted, though, to be in the presence of our special visitors from Paint Branch Unitarian Universalist Church in Adelphi, Maryland. Paint Branch is my home church, so I'm really glad that they're visiting here today. Welcome. Now, for some news. We wish to highlight several opportunities to be in conversation with one another over the next few weeks. After our service today, we invite you to stay in this same Zoom room for coffee hour with Tracy and Reverend Kathleen, and to talk about your experience of the virtual service and our plans for reopening for in-person service starting on February 20th. Details about our reopening plan can be found in the e-bulletin and on our website. There are 2 more congregational care listening groups coming up. This Sunday, today, January 30th at 11:45, There will be a conversation about the challenges of parenting in this time of ongoing pandemic flux. Please join Reverend Luis, our Minister of Congregational Care, and our Director of Religious Education, Dolores Miller, for this hour dialogue. The Zoom link can also be found on the calendar or weekly bulletin. This Wednesday, February 2nd at 7:30 p.m., Reverend Luis will also facilitate a conversation about the challenges of supporting elders, parents, and grandparents. We need each other this season of health crisis, staff shortages, and pandemic distance. The Zoom link for that can also be found on the calendar or weekly bulletin. Next Sunday, February 6th at 11:45, please come hear about All Souls Social Justice Ministry campaigns. From now until June is key for organizing in Washington as local elections impact affordable housing, environmental justice, migrant justice, racial justice, and public safety. All Souls is one of 40 faith communities in the Washington Interfaith Network, WIN, and WIN has a strong background and track record in influencing lasting change and several creative campaigns in the works. An organizer from WIN and leaders in the social justice ministry here at All Souls will discuss how we might be involved in this critical work. That's not all. Our minister in residence, Reverend Dr. Bill Sinkford, will host his monthly focus conversation. You can attend either Thursday, February 17th from 7 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. or Saturday, February 19th from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Details are in the church bulletin. Last but not least, we would love for you to join us for our next Vespers service, which we hold every second Wednesday of the month. Please mark your calendars for February 9th, 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. The Zoom link can be found on our website homepage under Worship and Other Events. Now for congregational care concerns. Today, we want to recognize Holocaust Remembrance Day, which was this past Thursday. We mourn the death of longtime member Dr. Robert Bob Murray Jr. on January 21st. Bob Murray was retired faculty at Howard University School of Medicine and a part of the All Souls Jubilee Singer community. A private burial at Rock Creek Church Cemetery will take place in February. The celebration of life for Bob will be a hybrid service on Saturday, May 14th. Our love and condolences to spouse Peachy, their children, Bob, Susie, and Deanne, and our extended community that grieves. And finally, the celebration of life for Emily Dyer will be held on Saturday, March 12th at 2 p.m., 100% virtual. I invite you to join me in a prayer written by Reverend Ade Ama Kraba from her perspective as a Black woman and Unitarian Universalist minister. Her prayer is called Prayer for Our Nation. God of all known by many names, Holy One, it's in sorrow that I implore your intercession in removing the darkness that has descended upon this land. Heartbroken and filled with pain, we are on the precipice of descending into our lowest form of baseness and despair. Lift the veil of hatred, envy, and confusion that clouds our judgment. Give us the clarity needed to remember that the essence of your love and light resides in each of us. Divine One, it is through faith and by grace that we have survived the suffering and despair thrust upon us. Strengthen our resolve to work for justice and healing and a land filled with broken people. Help us to find hope amidst our perceived hopelessness. Refresh and restore our spirits with renewed vigor. Give us courage to get up as we fall again and again. From my heart to yours, may it be so.
This morning's reading is an adaptation from the Hebrew scriptures, the book of Isaiah 43, 1-4. But now this is what the Lord says, the one who created you, Jacob, the one who formed you, Israel. Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name, and you are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. When you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. Fear not, for I am with you. You are mine, and I am with you. You are precious and honored in my sight because I love you. The rivers, they will not sweep over you because I love you.
As she moves from one, her spirit grows thin. And when she falls in love, it's hard but true. But it's oh so much harder when that man is you. I got lost on the river, but I got found. I got lost on the river, but I didn't drown. One stormy day, I was out at sea. The waves they rolled and they tumbled over me. I spied dry land and a tall elm tree. I knew that soon that's where I'd like to. My sweetheart, she left me for some other one, and now I wait for the next rising sun. I got lost on the river, but then I got found. I got lost on the river, but I didn't drown.
I need a moment to compose myself. Maybe you do too. That was so beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Whew. You know, this month we have, actually this year, we've been framing our services in the, using the frame of storytelling. And we've said, tell me a story about, well, this month you've heard a series of theological and personal stories related to our theme. And today I want to conclude this month by telling you a true story of something that happened to me and what I learned about life and death, of living and loving and letting go. And it's my hope that within this story, you will discover the threads of connection with your own life and with our shared life here at All Souls. So the story begins on the river. It begins with a family vacation. My two sisters-in-law, my brother-in-law, husband, stepdaughter, and her husband, we were all converging for 2 weeks of active adventures: whitewater rafting, hiking, biking, zip lining, waterfall, canyon rappelling. And our first full day together, we were going whitewater rafting. Now, I have been whitewater rafting before, so I knew what to expect. Our guide, Jorge, told us that the river was really high that month, so we could expect a very exciting adventure. And before we got to the launch site, Jorge gave us the safety talk in the van. Remember to listen to your guide, he said. Do exactly what he says. If you fall into the river, keep your eyes open and your mouth shut. Lean back, put your feet up, and float until you can get to the shore. Don't try to swim, and let go of your paddle. Most importantly, he said, don't panic, have fun, you'll be fine. Well, we were excited, so we barely listened to these instructions as we got fitted up for our life jackets. Our first decision of the morning was who was going to sit in the front of the raft. Jorge suggested gently that maybe the abuela, or grandma, was he talking about me? Perhaps shouldn't sit in the front because that is the most challenging place on the raft. But I felt pretty strong and fit and decided that I wanted to be up front with my son-in-law. We would take the lead positions. So we shoved off and were immediately launched into very intense rapids. And despite our best efforts, our raft quickly ran into a huge boulder and we nearly capsized within 5 minutes of setting forth down that river. And as the four of us tried to push ourselves off the rock, the guide shouted orders to us and he was able to skillfully navigate us back into the current. Mercifully, the current slowed down long enough for Jorge to give us some instructions, which apparently we hadn't listened to carefully enough the first time. Okay, he said, remember, there are 3 commands you need to respond to immediately when I shout them. The first, paddle hard. You have to coordinate your paddle with the person in front of you and intuit the stroke of the person next to you. And it works best when you all dig in at the same time. So now let's practice. Paddle hard. We dug in, each of us flailing at our own incompetent pace until we started to feel the rhythm of the person next to us. Second command, he said, lean in. We were asked to lean in when the raft was in danger of capsizing, to shift the balance to the center of the raft instead of the outer edges where we were perched. This was completely counterintuitive because it seemed as if we were throwing the raft out of balance by leaning in. Yet each time he called for us to lean in, the raft righted itself and we avoided disaster. Hey, we got this. We all nodded to each other. Paddle hard, lean in, we got this. The third command was the most serious one of all. He told us that he used to shout, get down, which meant that you were supposed to sit completely down at the bottom of the raft, snuggle in as close as you could to your rowing partner and form a tight bond. But he said most people didn't move fast enough when they heard get down. So he changed the command. And because this is a sermon, I'm not going to use Jorge's exact word, but the Spanish word was mierda. But let's just say, he said, oh sheets. So the command was, oh, sheets. When he shouted, oh, sheet, that meant you had to move immediately to the bottom of the raft because what was coming was too dangerous for us to maneuver on our own. He had to take control of the raft. Now, unlike other rafting trips I had been on, the pace and the pulse of this river, unrelenting. There was no leisurely languishing along the river, no moments of smooth sailing. There was pitched intensity followed by less intensity, but there was not a return to the normal rafting as I had previously known it. It was exhilarating and exhausting, and I was already feeling pretty beaten up when the raft hit another rock. And because I was perched on the edge of the raft, with my foot anchored in a stirrup, I fell backward into the water with my head under the water. Now, in films, they depict moments like these in slow motion. And now I understand why. Because in times of crisis, time both compresses and narrows. And so in slow motion, I saw my body fall backwards and I saw a hand extending to me as if from a great height, but I couldn't reach that hand. And I tried bringing my head up out of the water, but the current was too fast. And I remember thinking, if I do not release my foot from the stirrup, it is going to break. But if I do release it, I am going into this river. I let go and I blacked out for a second. And when I came to, I found myself fully out of the boat in the rapids, facing a very tumultuous stretch of the river with high rocks and fast water. So, why have I been telling you this very long, dramatic story? It's because I have often thought of my experience on the river over these past 2 years. What we have all been going through since March 2020 has felt to me like one long, exhausting paddle upstream. There has been no let up. In June 2021, we thought that our vaccines and boosters had beaten back the pandemic, only to realize that something new and more contagious was on the rise. And here at All Souls, we were excited to reopen, even at half capacity this fall, to start our multi-platform services. And then by Christmas Eve, to reluctantly conclude we had to cancel a much anticipated and beloved in-person pageant and Christmas Eve services. So here we are once again, as Carrie Reichs mentioned, maybe coming out of the rapids, maybe looking forward to reopening. Well, hopefully looking forward to reopening later in February. That's our plan. Not fully, but with masks and distancing. And we are hoping and praying another wave doesn't force us to change that plan. Every time I think we can go back to normal, I find myself in that pandemic river again, flailing, taking on more water. So let's go back to the real river with me and my paddle. We were now submerged. And as I surfaced and I gasped for breath, somewhere in my reptilian brain, the safety talk kicked in and I pushed my feet up and I leaned back and I started to ride the rapids. But the one thing I was convinced I needed now to hold on to was the paddle. And I held on to it with all my might. I knew instinctively that that paddle would save me. Of course, I was wrong. Remember the instructions we got back on shore? Holding on to what was useful in one situation, a paddle that can maneuver a raft, was not helpful in maneuvering a body alone in a raging river. And finally, I did remember Jorge saying, if you get tossed in the river, the first thing you do, let go of your paddle. Otherwise, it can get caught and drag you under. Just let go. Oh, another counterintuitive insight, just letting go. It's counterintuitive unless you're a Buddhist, because Buddha's great insight, the one with which we are still trying to practice today, is that of non-attachment. We can't help it. We can't help but be attached to people, places, and things We want to hold on to them because they're a part of our identity, or just because we love them. And to live fully immersed in life and then let go of life itself is the ultimate embodiment of the Buddha's teachings. Everything changes, including us. And to expect permanence and stability is to invest in an illusion. But you know, despite years of meditating and contemplating this great truth, I still cannot say I have mastered it. When we are on this metaphorical river of life and it is swirling and whirling around us, we want something to cling to, which is familiar and comforting, that is stable and permanent. And yet, guides wiser than we also caution us to know when to loosen, when to let go, when to embrace the not knowing, when to trust the river, even when it is terrifying. So Jorge had now managed to maneuver the raft close to me, and he held out his paddle. "Grab my paddle," he yelled. To do that, I would have to let go of my own paddle, which for some irrational reason, I simply could not do. So I was trying to do both, reach for his paddle, hold on to my own, and my foot got caught in the rocks below, and the current pulled me under the raft where my life jacket would actually hold me down under the raft, under the water. How do we handle being pulled under the raft? How do we handle this tumultuous cycle of change that we're in? Well, remember Jorge's second charge to us: lean in. We all have to lean in a direction that may seem in the moment, again, counterintuitive. So in 2 weeks, our All Souls staff will be meeting with Regional Director Megan Foley to talk about some of the changes they as a staff have been through in the last 4 years. And we'll be discussing the wisdom of a church consultant, Gil Rendell's image, which is similar to a river rapid. It's called the roller coaster of change. So I'm going to show you that slide now. This graph describes the cycle of what happens when we as individuals and institutions go through a process of profound change. And he begins with when a major change is announced. The first response may be one of increased energy, positive feelings. Even when the news is more difficult, Rendell says, such as when a serious disease is finally diagnosed, the response may be, well, thankfully, now we know what we're dealing with. Now we can make a plan. But after that initial burst of energy, people and congregations can experience a whole range of emotions: shock, mourning, disorientation, turmoil, rage, anxiety, guilt, depression, feelings of loss, detachment, distancing it from others, and the need to let go. What All Souls as a congregation has been going through since probably 2017, and what we as a nation are going through, is indeed this roller coaster of change. Or to extend this metaphor back to the river, when we cling to what formerly supported us, when we cling to the paddle so tightly, that's when we can't see how it's not helping us to get back on the raft. I got lost on the river. I got lost on that river. When I went under that raft, I proceeded to do the second thing that Jorge told me absolutely not to do. I shut my eyes and opened my mouth. And as a result, I couldn't see, and my mouth and nose was filling with water. This is how people drown, I remember thinking rather rationally. And then, oh, I think I'm going to drown. I've heard that people facing death or near death can have this immense sense of calm and peace. And honestly, faced with that truth that I was stuck and I was taking in water and I could not save myself, I was surprised. I felt an enormous sense of I know it sounds odd, but relief and of peace. And all I remember thinking was, I guess this is how my world ends. And everything began to close down like a pinhole camera going black. And then I felt the pull on my chest and the straps of my life jacket digging into my pectoral muscles. And suddenly, without understanding how he managed to do it, I was being lifted up and out of the water somehow by Jorge and laid face down, coughing and sputtering on the floor of the raft. Well, there was no time for theological reflection on this near-death experience because Jorge was already calling for us to paddle hard. There were more rapids ahead. And to lean in, paddle hard, lean in, because we are not out of the rapids, yet we had to work together to get through them safely. I got lost on the river, but I got found. I got lost on the river, but I did not drown. Now, metaphors can only take us so far, of course. Although there is a part of me that remains hopeful and so excited about the ways in which we are reclaiming the vision of our country, there is another part of me right now that feels as battered as that raft on the rapids. I feel like our people have been confronting white supremacy and fighting for justice and combating COVID and disinformation. And we've been paddling hard and leaning in. And maybe we are avoiding being racked on the rocks, but most of the time it has felt like one oh sheets moment after another. So let's go back to that roller coaster of change slide for just a minute. I want you to notice that once you hit the bottom of that roller coaster of change slide, you see that it actually comes back up. And if you don't see the slide, I'll just describe it to you. There's an arc and then it comes back up. And that coming back up arc is problem solving and refining a purpose and moving towards hope and excitement. And as All Souls begins to look ahead to creating new goals, electing a search committee, and eventually calling a new minister or ministry team, I would not be surprised at all if you begin to feel the pace of church life accelerating again. And what it means is that there will be a lot of leaning in and paddling hard, and yes, even some oh sheets moment between now and June 2023. You know, if this rafting trip and near drowning experience taught me anything, it reminded me that I can be lifted up by hands not my own. And sometimes those hands are human, the hands we extend to one another in times of loss and dislocation. And sometimes they are the helping hands of ministry or poetry or song or music or scripture. Sometime later in that trip, in my own scripture reading practice, I came across that passage from Isaiah, the one you heard this morning. When you walk through the fires, you shall not be burned. When you walk through the waters, they will not overwhelm you, because I am with you, because you are beloved, because I love you. I held those words close, and they held me. They grabbed onto me as powerfully as the human hands that lifted me out of those raging waters. At the end of the trip, I thanked Jorge for saving my life. He shrugged and said, "De nada." And then essentially, it's my job. I was so grateful he did not let go of me, even as I imagined I was letting go of life. That experience taught me something else that I'm still exploring, that I did not need to fear even the greatest change of all, my own death. And I thought of something that the recently departed Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh wrote in his book, Fear, Essential Wisdom for Getting Through the Storm. He said, quote, We have a great habitual fear inside of ourselves. We're afraid of many things, of our own death, of losing our loved ones, of change, of being alone. In the practice of Buddhism, we see that all mental formations, including compassion, love, fear, sorrow, despair, all are organic in nature. We don't need to be afraid of any of them because transformation is always possible. We are in the midst of a great transformation here at All Souls and in this country. It won't be easy, of course. There will be many dangers, toils, and snares along the way. Yet I'm convinced that if we lean in, paddle hard, and huddle close through the oh sheets moments, we won't get lost on that river. We'll get found. May it be so.
Souls, what do we do when we've come undone? What do we do when the ties that bind us have frayed? What do we do when we are adrift and looking for a hand to pull us ashore? Remember this: you are whole, you are complete, you are perfectly created, you are strong. If you're feeling broken, All Souls is a beautiful, beloved mosaic. We welcome all of your beautiful pieces. If you are feeling uncertain and alone, you have a home at All Souls. This house, whether it's virtual or in the sanctuary, now reaches beyond the walls, beyond borders, and in fact, beyond oceans, and all of it is open to you. Feel free to make it yours. Come, renew your strength, and know that you are beautifully and wonderfully made. I am Tracy Hughes Trotter, the Executive Director of All Souls Church, and my pronouns are she, her. If I'm speaking to anyone in particular and all of you at once, and if today's message has somehow touched your heart, please consider making a gift to All Souls. Your gifts help the church to continue to change lives, inspire change, and seek justice for so many who go unseen and unheard. Giving is quick and it's easy, and you may give online by clicking donate on the All Souls website. All of the information is there in the chat. And if you're holding your phone in your hand, you can pick it up right now and just simply text ASCU to 73256. All Souls, my deepest prayer for you today is that your solace is your blessing. Thank you.
my lips are unclean. In my darkness, I remember Mama's words that reoccur to me. Surrender to the good Lord, and she'll wipe your slate clean. Take me to your river. I wanna go. Oh, take me to your river. I wanna go. Dip me in your cool waters, I go in. As a man with many crimes come up for air, as my sins flow down the Jordan, oh, I wanna come near and give you every part of me. But there's blood on my hands, and my lips are unclean. Take me to the river. I wanna go. Oh, please let me go. Take me to your river. I wanna go. Wanna go, wanna go, wanna know, wanna know, wanna know. Wanna go, wanna go, wanna go. Ooh. Wanna know, wanna know, wanna know. Yeah. Wanna go, wanna go, wanna go. Will you take me to your river? Wanna know, where I can dip my hands down in the Jordan. Oh, as my sins flow down the river. Yeah, I wanna go. I wanna go. Yeah. There will be better days. 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 Let the wave wash over. There will be better days. There will be better days. There will be better days. I am there will be better days. 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 Let the wave wash over. There will be better days. There will be better days. There will be better days. Let the wave wash over. There will be better days. There will be better days. Let the wave wash over. There will be better days. There will be better days. There will be better days. I am there will be better days. There will be better days. There will be better days. Let the wave wash over. There will be better days. There will be better days. There will be better days. Let the wave wash over. There will be better days. There will be better days. Let the wave wash over. There will be better days. There will be better days. There will be better days. I am there will be better days. There will be better days. Let the wave wash over. There will be better days. 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 There will be better
There will be better days ahead indeed. In fact, let this be one of those better days. Let the waves wash over you. Let the blessings and inspiration of this hour carry you through the rapids and through the times of leisure and pleasure. So go forth from this time and this place inspired, ready to lean in, paddle hard with our companions on this journey. Blessings, and may it always be so.